standing here at the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi River, and you would think that this would be a very historic area, and it is, but that's not why I'm here. The city of Cairo is unique in the fact that it has really dwindled, and for a variety of reasons, but I figured this would be a good place to start to show you why it was built up in the first place. And obviously being here among, where these two large rivers combined into one was super important because of the jobs that could come from having these right here. And it's pretty interesting to be here. There's a bridge there that goes over to Kentucky. There's a bridge here that goes over to Missouri. And obviously we're in Illinois. And so such a opportunity to be successful and grow and really become a major port. And a lot of historical things have happened here. Lewis and Clark were right here. They spent days here. There were early settlers here in around 1818, and there were a variety of efforts to establish a city, and it finally, in the mid-1850s, is when that happened, when this became an important port, and then the population started to grow because of, obviously, of its location. This area that we're standing on was actually called Fort Defiance, and was built by Ulysses S. Grant during the Civil War to help control this very, very important part of the country. The town continued to grow during the Civil War, and then it really prospered afterwards, all the way until the 1920s, where it reached its high in population of 15,000. From there, as travel along rivers started being more and more replaced by railroads and roads, a lot of those jobs started to leave, and the population started to dwindle. That was one of the main reasons that the population started going down, but it wasn't the only reason. Something that has really troubled Cairo's history is the problems with race relations. So this is obviously as far south as you can get in Illinois, and we have Kentucky and Missouri, and this was a battle in the Civil War, an area that was important, and so there were all kinds of tensions. It definitely has been problematic for a long time, and was another reason why people started to leave this area. This is a town that today is predominantly occupied by blacks, and it has been a historically high percentage of the population for over 100 years. And for a city in the quote north, this is as far south as you can get, and certainly has made for a lot of difficult times. I can't even go into all the things I've read because this video would take too long. So I'll link some things in the description about more of the history of Cairo and some of the troubling things that happened in its past. The population just dwindled and dwindled, and it has continued to dwindle in a very dramatic way, all the way down to the new census that came out in 2020. 1,733 people remain from a high of 15,000. And this is a fairly remarkable situation where 90% of the population is now gone. Obviously, we're going to explore the town, city, and show you what is left, and what it's like living in a city that is 90% gone. So let's go check it out. So most of the towns I visit are very small compared to this. And so it's pretty easy to just drive around and show you where, the abandoned places are. This is much more difficult because this is a large area, much larger than the towns if you watch this channel that I usually talk about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive down 3 streets. I'm going to go down the main street first, and then I'm going to go down a street that's a couple blocks west that is brick road and some interesting places, and then I'm going to go along the river. So 3 kind of parallel roads to show you what the main roads kind of look like. There's also so many back streets and back roads and places that have abandoned places, so I'll try to maybe put those in at the end, because I know a lot of you like to look at the abandoned and old structures. But this is a really remarkable place, and let's start with checking out what's down the long main street through the city. Here is Main Street of Cairo, and as you drive down this main street, it's kind of typical from a lot of towns, a lot of cities. You have these big buildings, kind of the main buildings, but most of these buildings are abandoned. That's a church that's probably not abandoned, but then there's buildings like this, just one right after another, these old buildings that don't appear to have anything going. That's a library, so there every once in a while there will be a building, but then you have a lot of that. And then we get towards the end of the street, and here at the end of this street you have the high school, and nice high school, has some cool sayings on the side there. So we turn around and head back now down the same street, just in the opposite direction, and you can see some things on the other side of the road. I was filming out of one side of the road, then the other side of the road. So there's an old fire department. This is a courthouse. So some of these, buildings are in good shape. Some of them aren't. And, there's another fire department in abandoned buildings. That's the armory. And then now we'll be going down to the next kind of side street, a couple blocks west. And this is a nice street. This is, they've got a park and they have some different things, some big houses. There's not as many abandoned places down this brick road. You see some, really nice places like that. And there's it seemed odd that, you have this strip that was pretty nice. You have the Magnolia Manor, which is an old house that's a museum that you can check out. And then we go over towards where the river is. So that road right there, kind of in the middle, that's the road we're going to drive down. And going down this road are mostly abandoned places. Lots of old buildings. It would be curious to see this place in its heyday, of if all these buildings were up and running, and just to see what it was like. But yeah, there's a Delta Center with just nothing left. And then just across the street, more old abandoned buildings, kind of all down through here. And then at the end, there's a factory that is pretty busy. One of the few busy places there, and more abandoned buildings. And then these are just a bunch of places down side streets, that just random places, just kind of up and down different roads all over. You find just building after building that looks like this. So we are right off the main street right there. And as you can see, there's some rough stuff across the street. let's check out, I guess this would be the historic district. So I don't know when this would have been kind of hopping, but this is what's called historic downtown Cairo. There's obviously movie theater, or theater, the Gym Theater, which was, I'm sure, very popular. Not too popular anymore over here. And here's the same street from the drone view, the theater on the right and the abandoned buildings on the left. There's really no other buildings here. So we'll walk down to the end of the street. So get down to kind of the, I guess you'd say, the intersection. There's a bank kind of entrance that would have been right here, looking back there towards the theater. So this was, I guess, the little downtown, maybe entertainment, area. There's some, like I said, a couple of buildings there. We drove down this street, and the river is right over there. Now, obviously, these bricks have been redone. They don't look like they're old bricks, but assuming maybe there were some kind of transportation through the town. You can see one went that way, the old trolleys or train cars. So that's a cool little bit of touch of history there. Now there's some original brick. Always love finding that. Okay, let's talk about Cairo and what I think. And this is I've been doing this for a couple years, touring these places, and I can honestly say I have never been to a place like Cairo. I've been to Pitcher, Oklahoma, where it was 15,000 people and it was abandoned for toxic contamination. That's the only thing I can compare this to, although this is not totally abandoned. There are 1,700 people that live here, and it is just a contradiction everywhere. There are tons of historic places in Cairo. You can see there's people driving past. There's a lot of traffic because there's a main road that goes through here on to the next town. And so, I've only been here a couple hours, but I know there's lots of places to explore and there's lots of places to see. And there is, documentation and nods to that history. And then there is, like this. There's abandoned buildings everywhere. And so much that what I've shown you is just a fraction of what it is. I've seen other people do videos on Cairo, and some of them are it's about about how abandoned it is. Some of them it's about like hope for a better future, and some of them are talking about how dangerous it is, maybe because crime has risen. And all I can say is it's like everything into one, and it's overwhelming to try to come here in a couple hours and explore and tell the story. So you can tell there's people that care about the community. I'm standing in front of a building. This is during the holiday season. It's an abandoned building, and there's Christmas lights, attached to it. And it just tells you that there's somebody who certainly cares. And you see signs of that all around the town. And I feel very, I guess sad is the feeling for the people that are here. I think that if you're a leader and you're trying to resurrect Cairo, it probably just feels impossible because it's so big. There's so many, places and there are buildings, and there's so many huge, enormous buildings that are abandoned. Not to mention all the houses that are abandoned. And if you were to destroy the houses or destroy all the buildings, you would be left with just wide open spaces in so many areas. And so it's I don't know what you would do to keep it going. You really need a large contingent of people to take this on as a major project to revitalize it in some way. It's got potential. You definitely see the potential. I've enjoyed exploring it, and if you like abandoned places, this is the place for you. I've been walking around the town for a little while. I've felt comfortable. I've not, I've read about it being very dangerous, and I've not felt that. Now it is a Tuesday, middle of the day on a Tuesday, and so I could be wrong, but I have felt safe walking around, and I think that if anybody wants to explore, you definitely should feel welcome to check out Cairo. A ghost town is a loose term for, it could be for a variety of places. It could be an abandoned place. It could be a place that no longer exists. But it can also be used as a term for a place like Cairo that has lost like 90% of the population. Some people might not think of it as a ghost town because it's still a town and there's still 1,700 people. A lot of historians, a lot of people who are more expert at the ghost town thing than me certainly consider Cairo a ghost town. Is it a ghost town? I think according to the definition that a lot of historians give, where it's mostly abandoned and definitely a feeling of despair, I think it definitely fits in that category. But that's not to say that there isn't anyone here. It's very active. There's businesses, there's a library, and there's courthouse, and there's restaurants and things like that here. But it is 9 out of 10 things that you see are abandoned and definitely just sad.